Grover Cleveland was born in New Jersey in 1837. When he was 16, he dropped out of school to support his family after his father died. But he eventually became a lawyer, a county sheriff, the mayor of Buffalo, New York, and later the state's Democratic governor. Despite a scandal involving a widow he dated, Cleveland was elected U.S. president in 1884. He ran again but lost to Republican Benjamin Harrison in 1888, even though Cleveland won the popular vote. But he tried again in 1892 and won a second term in office. Why, during the week of the 2024 U.S. presidential election, are we telling you about someone who ran in the 1800s? Because until this week, Grover Cleveland was the only American leader ever elected to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. That changed as the votes were counted overnight on Tuesday, and former President Donald Trump, who served from 2017 to 2021, once again became the U.S. president-elect whose second term starts in January. Hi, I'm Carl Azuz. It's my privilege to welcome the best audience in news to the world from A to Z. Any way you looked at it, this year's U.S. presidential election was going to be historic. The 45th American leader completing a historic comeback to serve again as the 47th, the first female vice president who attempted to become the first female president in U.S. history. Kamala Harris called Donald Trump on Wednesday to formally concede or to acknowledge his victory. And she told her supporters not to despair about the outcome.
My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright.
Results were still coming in even as we put this show together Wednesday night. At that time, President-elect Trump was projected to have won the popular vote with more than 72 million ballots in his favor. Vice President Harris had more than 67 million votes. In the Electoral College, the Republican candidate had received at least 295 electoral votes to the Democratic candidate's 226. Republicans were projected to take control of the U.S. Senate with at least 52 of the chamber's 100 seats. Democrats had secured at least 44. Republicans were also leading in most of the races for the 435-seat House of Representatives, with 208 seats to the Democrats' 190. These numbers aren't yet final, though.
It's a historic win for now President-elect Donald Trump, who was able to secure more than that magic number required of 270 Electoral College votes, mainly because he was able to really get through and win in those key battleground states.
Please welcome President-elect Donald J. Trump.
Former President Donald Trump, now projected President-elect, is the second person in U.S. history with 2 non-consecutive terms as Commander-in-Chief. It was a win he started celebrating early with supporters.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate.
And he'll have a Republican Senate with him after the GOP secured enough seats to take control of that chamber. Vice President Kamala Harris watched the results come in with family, friends, and hundreds of supporters at her alma mater, Howard University. A source close to the campaign told CNN Harris's team is processing its strengths and weaknesses. President-elect Donald Trump giving his preview of a second term.
I will govern by a simple motto: promises made, promises kept. We're going to keep our promises.
Word knowledge. In what year was there a U.S. presidential election involving Democrat Al Gore and Republican George W. Bush? 1996, 2000, 2004, 2008. These 2 candidates faced off in the particularly memorable election of the year 2000.
On this date in world history, November November 7th in the year 2000 was an election day, but the outcome wouldn't be known for weeks. Though Democratic presidential nominee Al Gore narrowly won the popular vote, results in the Electoral College, which decide the presidency, were incredibly close, and the race came down to the state of Florida. But the vote there was so close that it triggered a recount, and legal battles broke out as that process dragged on through November, and the nation waited to see who its next president would be. In the end, the U.S. Supreme Court stopped the recount process on December 12th. Republican presidential nominee George W. Bush was narrowly leading in Florida's vote, and he received the state's 25 electoral votes. That gave him a total of 271, and therefore the win in the election.
Where in the world? This is a European nation that borders the Adriatic Sea. It was proclaimed as a kingdom in 1861, but today is a parliamentary republic. The nation's geography is famous for its distinctive boot shape. This is Italy, where some of the Western world's most treasured instruments are preserved.
Technicians used a high-tech X-ray on this nearly 300-year-old violin, hoping that the instrument would give up the secret of its exquisite sound. But that's only part of the reason they ran a scanner nearly 24 hours straight. This particular violin belonged to Niccolo Paganini, one of Italy's most famous musicians.
Paganini himself said, I leave my violin to the city of Genoa that it be perpetually preserved. That was part of his will. And so now we are better able to understand the instrument and better able to conserve the instrument.
The European Synchrotron Radiation Facility and its particle accelerator are based in Grenoble, France. The lab is able to create images at the scale of a single micron. That's a millionth of a meter, close enough to see individual wood cells in 3 dimensions. That's a conservator's dream, making it possible to see even the tiniest microcracks forming. Paganini nicknamed his favorite violin Il Cannone, or the cannon, for its powerful and resonant sound. Italy now considers the instrument a national treasure, even insuring it for $30 million just for its trip to the lab in France. Many researchers and scientists have studied violins built in the 17th and 18th centuries by the famous Antonio Stradivari. They've examined the type and thickness of wood, the shape of parts and their joinery. These guys even spent 4 years just trying to solve the recipe for the varnish used on Stradivarius violins. Just a common artist oil, it turns out, with conifer resin and a little ordinary red iron oxide pigment.
On a montré que le vernis était réalisé en 2 couches.
Basically, it's like a cooking recipe. You might have the ingredients, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know how to cook the dish.
In other words, it's not the instrument. As usual, it's talent that makes beautiful music.
I want to start with a shout out to the Skibbity Riz Academy. Not really. Somebody wrote that, but we couldn't verify the school. We could, however, verify that Skinner North Classical School is watching in Mr. Stanley's class. The Dragons are in Chicago, Illinois. Making a stop in Pennsylvania, we come to Shippensburg Area Middle School, where the Greyhounds are racing to Mrs. Stavers or Stavers' class. It's in Shippensburg. And no matter what time it is, it's always about the Knights at Northridge High School. Mrs. Anderson's class is awesome like Fridays in Layton, Utah. What in the world is a great question to ask when it comes to this? Is it a wombat, a baby chihuahua, a chupacabra? One of the latest additions to a Russian zoo is actually a hyena, but it's a brown one, reportedly the rarest type of hyena that's typically found in South Africa, and its numbers are decreasing in the wild. Zookeepers here are handling this one so much because its mother died. The cub is 3 months old, and experts say it appears to be healthy. The species has a carnivoracious appetite, inspiring concern when spotted and always on the hunt to take vengeance on their prey. So for that, this is no laughing matter. You've probably seen a many a lena mina hyena. You're not keen to take a shinta unless you're a zoologist who can dingo hand raise a cub that's more like a dog than a jackal. I'm Carl Azuz, thanking you for watching the world from A to Z. You are why we do what we do, and you mean the world to me.